Well, let's get more now on our top story this evening. That is the resignation of the Foreign Office Minister, Baroness Warsi. I'm joined now by the contributing editor of The Spectator, Harry Cole, and Talha Ahmad, who's a spokesperson for the Muslim Council of Britain. Both of those gentlemen are in central London. Good evening to you both. Harry Cole, let's start with you. Now, Baroness Warsi's time in government hasn't always been plain sailing, of course. How surprised were you to see her depart?
Well, I was particularly surprised given that she was representing the government less than 24 hours ago. At 10 o'clock last night, she was in Westminster Abbey representing the government at the World War I commemorations. Her resignation letter seemed very rushed. It took the Prime Minister 7 hours to reply, in which he pointed out that he hadn't had a chance to speak to her before she tweeted her own resignation. So this has come as a complete shock in terms of timing, but the underlying factors for Baroness Warsi's resignation have really been in play since about 2012. David Cameron plucked this person out of relative obscurity. She was a failed parliamentary candidate. He made her a peer. He made her the chairman of the Conservative Party, which was in a turbulent time with his backbenchers. And so when he sacked her in 2012, that's really been a sore point for Baroness Warsi ever since then. And there's no secret that there's no love lost between these two these days. And in many ways, lots of people have wondered whether surprised even that it took this long.
Talha Ahmad, how much of a loss do you think Baroness Warsi's resignation is to the government?
Firstly, I think we welcome it in the sense that she has spoken for the hearts and minds of most British people when she spoke of her concerns on Gaza. But in terms of her departure from the cabinet, she has been a pioneer in the sense that she broke new ceilings, if you like. She reached new height as the first female Muslim to reach the cabinet. So yes, her departure would be a loss, as it will certainly deny the government a different perspective that she brought.
Well, Harry Cole, it's interesting, isn't it? Because by taking that stance that Talha Ahmad was referring to there, Baroness Warsi, do you think perhaps is having an impact already? I'm talking in particular about the comments from Nick Clegg tonight when it comes to export licences for arms to Israel.
Obviously, this is an extremely tense time within government. There are a variety of different views. Baroness Warsi has hinted herself that she believes that other ministers are considering some sort of public gesture. But I think what in many ways, the way she's gone about this could in fact damage the impact it has. It's seen as quite nakedly political, the timings of it, the way that, again, as I said, she didn't tip off the Prime Minister. And the fact is that, it is, in many ways, some people are seeing it more about her own reputation and restoring that rather than the overall impact of her resignation. But that having been said, there are people in government who agree with her.
Talha Ahmad, do you think that the way that Baroness Warsi has departed, as Harry Cole was saying there, threatens to overshadow the very issue she's trying to highlight?
Well, I think Harry is deliberately playing it down. I think in terms of the timing, obviously she was very unhappy about the government policies, as she has said. And if you are unhappy and she wanted to make a point by resigning at the specific time that she has done, and therefore she obviously timed it in a way so that it would have the maximum impact. And as we can see, Nick Clegg, who has been critical of Israeli operations in Gaza, has come out speaking for effectively an arms embargo. So she intended to have maximum impact from her resignation, and I think she is going there. It must be said, though, that many people felt quite sad by the British government stance on Gaza. And today they feel that Baroness Warsi's decision would squarely put that attention back to government's decision, who would now have to really come out better than they have done in terms of their condemnation of the Israeli excesses in Gaza.
Yeah, Talha Ahmad, one thing that's interesting about her letter, her resignation letter, is that she claims that perhaps the government's stance and lack of reaction to what's going on in Gaza might be increasing the risk of radicalisation here in the UK. Do you think that's true?
Well, many people have claimed that foreign policy plays into if you like, the terrorist narrative. And it's interesting to see that even a cabinet minister thinks the same. We certainly think that the foreign policy plays a part, and that we would welcome an honest debate about understanding the exact impact that it should have, and also to work together to see what we can do to minimize any impact it may have.
Harry Cole, of course, part of Baroness Warsi's brief was to tackle radicalisation. She seems to be laying the blame for that particular area on foreign policy. Do you think that's fair?
Well, it beggars belief that if she genuinely thinks that there's a risk to Britain, that she doesn't stay in government to help fight that she somehow thinks that by making this big scene and storming off is somehow going to help that. You know, we've seen Baroness Warsi go very quiet at times. She disappeared or completely off the radar during the recent Birmingham schools scandal because she didn't want to get involved in that. And to suggest that the Communities and Cohesions Minister could be more effective at stopping radicalisation in the UK by resigning seems bizarre, which brings me again back to my point that a politician who in the past has been seen as very cynical and calculating has been very cynical and calculating to the extreme here.
That's a good point. Talha Ahmad, do you think that perhaps she would have had more of an impact had she stayed?
No, I don't think so. I think what is telling is that the minister who was responsible for that remit, if you like, she says that foreign policy is an issue. The reason she's making that, obviously in time she will make her own case, but it seems to me clear that she advocated that within the government and she didn't go anywhere, and she feels that now she feels that she's reached a tipping point where she could no longer justify her being in that government. So really, instead of criticizing her, I think we should seize on this opportunity to understand the issues that she raised and really have an open and honest debate and engage with these issues.
Talha Ahmad, Harry Cole, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you to both for joining us tonight at Sky News.